You have long said that you think that the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination was fishy.
Yeah, I really do. I believe that, and it's interesting that his family doesn't want this released. They don't want the remaining documents released, and I think the reason there is because look, Hoover and the federal and state law enforcement had a real hard-on for Martin Luther King, obviously, right? And they were covering him 3 ways to Sunday, so including wiretaps, some that were signed off by RFK, right, by Robert Kennedy, so as Attorney General. So I think, the family is like, look, do you really need to release these records? Because I think they're worried about, embarrassing information perhaps about his lifestyle.
Hasn't a lot of that already been released?
Yeah, it's been talked about and everything, but I think if you dump it out there, whereas with with JFK's documents, look, they've released some 5 million pages of his, right? I mean, estimates are like, we've released like 99% of the documents.
Right.
It's not that high a percentage with MLK. I don't think in those documents, because I don't think anybody's going to, if they're not going to self-incriminate, right? And I do think that there was something going on. Look, James Earl Ray is a much more interesting case study. James Earl Ray and his behavior leading up to the shooting at the Lorraine Motel, kind of going off the radar, disappearing. The guy couldn't keep himself out of jail. He was a failed petty thief, right? And he was just a fuck up. And then suddenly he disappears off the radar screen, and he shows up, and he looks like a college professor, and he's kind of got his shit together. And then after shooting him, he ends up in Belgium.
He got money and guns.
Yeah, he got money and guns. He had a bag full of cash to go buy himself a Mustang, which he used to drive around the South and kind of be off the grid. That one strikes me as, and then the sort of the interplay with federal and state and local law enforcement.